Hi, soul friends. It's Tannaz Hosseinpour, and welcome back to another episode of the Minutes on Growth podcast. Today, we have a very special guest with us, Reed Davis. He is a board certified holistic health practitioner, a certified nutritional therapist, and the founder of Functional Diagnostic Nutrition. So, all the health girlies listening, this episode is for you. Welcome, Reed.
Hey, thanks so much, Tannaz, for having me here.
I am excited to talk about everything that we're going to talk about today because I think it's such an important conversation that needs to be discussed more and more right now, especially with everything that's happening in terms of our health. I would say our declining health, maybe as a result of our lifestyle, what we're consuming, the quality of our sleep, and all the other good stuff. But before we dive into all of that, I have a big question because I've pivoted careers from law to psychology. And so when I see someone do a big pivot like that, I'm like, I want to know their story. So you started as an environmental paralegal. What made you pivot from saving the planet to saving the people?
Yeah, thanks. Well, I was curious, but first I'll say you're right. It's the time is now. It's never been more important. This is the young generation today is the first one that won't outlive their parents naturally, and it's because of poor health and chronic disease and epidemics and lots of things. So we're here to help and appreciate what you're doing. Minutes on growth is, you know, would love to see that just grow and grow and grow because people are curious. After the pandemic, um, health expenditures, health considerations, and the whole was no longer a pastime or luxury. It became a necessity,
Mhm.
especially around the areas of like living longer, like anti-aging and things like that. People don't want to die, so they're becoming more aware, and that was a critical time. But to answer your question, I was saving the planet. I was on a mission to clean up the whole world and air, birds, water, trees, bees. And you see enough dead fish and birds, you start wondering about people.
Mhm.
And so I did, and including myself, I was actually pretty healthy. I thought I was really healthy, and never really been to a doctor except for some injuries, sports and motorcycles, and all the things I love to do. But I turned my attention to people and changed jobs. I just flat out was asked for a job at this wellness center. I'd been taking my son in there. He was a high school athlete. This is in 1999, top of the top of his class athletically. He got he got seven different letters in four different sports. So he was super, and so I was always taking him in this wellness center to keep him tuned up, chiropractic and body care and things. And I love the way they talk there. I just love the doctors when they were explaining innate intelligence of the body, um, and things. And so I just switched. I talked them into hiring me mostly for business, for marketing and things like that. I was a good businessman already, and knew nothing about health really, other than the self care I'd been doing. And I was blown away at that opportunity. It changed my life, and it has since obviously changed thousands of practitioners' lives. Because after 10 years of working there, I started teaching. And so it was really just another passion from saving the planet to saving people. I applied the same skills. I'm a good researcher and writer, and I can explain difficult things to average people. I feel like I am an average person, but I loved the anatomy, the physiology, the biochemistry, and then they let me there, surprisingly, having no medical background, work with the patients. So they said, I was getting some training. I signed up right away for a nutrition, some of the credentials you mentioned. I have many, many more. courses and programs and things over the years. But they said you can talk to our patients. You can and I did. I asked them what's going on. What are you doing here? And always there was some pain. You know, there was we did a lot of chiropractic and acupuncture and body care and but then there was always something else. So they might have been coming in for chiropractic, neck pain, back pain. So, but I'll just tell you one quick story, and this changed my life because I had
Yes,
been
please.
learning just very early on about the lab work and that I could do it too under the doctors who were there. And this lady came in, she was on her fourth or fifth visit, and she was looking really sad. And I said, you know, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, this weight, I'm 40 pounds overweight because of this medication for the hives.
Hmm.
So again, she was a chiropractic patient, neck, back pain, but looking real sad. What's wrong? It's this 40 pounds I'm overweight because I've been on this medication for the hives for 2 years. And I wanted to help her and wanted to tell her, but I really couldn't get a word in edgewise. You know, once you say, hey, what's wrong? They want to tell you the whole story. So she's like, yeah, I've been on this medication for 2 years and it's really frustrating. It makes me gain weight, doesn't matter what I do. And she'd just been to the doctor, she told me. And he, when she expressed that frustration, apparently said, lady, you can be fat or you can have the hives. Take your pick. Yeah, exactly. That's how I was like, what? You know, and still I wanted to help. And but she wouldn't let me talk yet. She said, and Reed, when I told him that was so depressing, you can be fat or you can have the hives. He said, I'll be happy to write your prescription for antidepressants. And so then, so now I know why she's looking so sad. And by the way, I'm walking her back to the one of the treatment rooms for her adjustment, chiropractic, and we would do body work. I was trained in myofascial therapy and put a heat pack on people. We really took care of our patients really well. And so I had her back there ready for that. And I said, well, first name, well, why didn't you ever try to find out why you get the hives? Like you and me now, it's like, duh, you know, but at the time, it was like, what do you mean? You know, her head snapped around on a swivel. And so long story short, you know, ran some labs, got some test results, changed her diet and got her hormones looking at towards balancing. A lot of things were going on. But within 9 days, she told her doctor, I'm not taking this medication anymore. I found out why I get the hives. We did food sensitivity and some environmental pollutant panels and things like that, you know, complete workup. But it changed her life. She was so happy. I'm off the medication and now I'm working out to a sweat and I'm taking hot showers. A couple of things she hadn't done in 2 years because even on the meds, sweating and taking hot showers gave her the hives, you know, so it's
Wow.
so changed her life. And a couple of weeks after that, she was losing weight. I think she lost like 13 pounds in 2 weeks just getting off the medication.
Wow.
And well, we changed her diet, got our foods and things like that. But but you know, this changed my life to like, wow, I'm gonna be the world's leading expert in lab work. I'm gonna run this functional alternative lab work. This wasn't your standard blood test. And I'm ready for the next question, but she, you know, like so many people who ran their blood work was told, you know, nothing's wrong with you. Your blood
Hmm.
work looks normal. And so you've heard that one before, right?
Yeah.
Everyone knows somebody or themselves has been told your blood work looks normal. And so we didn't do that kind of work. I learned to run the saliva testing, urine testing, stool test, the totally alternative. Again, this is 25, 6 years ago. Totally alternative investigation into what the underlying causes were. And I'll just finish that by saying, because that's all I could do. remember, I had no medical background. I had no ability to diagnose or treat anything. That's for doctors. Read, the doctors there would laugh. Haha, you have to find out what's really wrong with them and teach them how to fix it because you can't treat either. So that restriction and having no medical background was the biggest blessing I could imagine. Really, okay. And I said, okay, that's what I'll do. I'll find out if they would run the labs, find out why they felt the way they felt or looked the way they looked, that they were pretty frustrated with. And that's what led to, after 10 years of that, that's what led to me teaching what I teach now.
Wow. So, as you were sharing all of that, I'm thinking, first of all, that intuitive knowing that there's something more, right? And the curiosity, I feel like that's such a strong trait within you to be willing to be curious about asking the right questions, like, what is underneath this? And being patient enough to look into it. Because I think, exactly as you said, similar to your story, the doctor's like, okay, well, I'll write you a pill for this. And no one is, in my opinion, caring deeply enough to say, well, let me shift the narrative to why, how did we end up here in the first place? So I really love and appreciate and honor the fact that you took that time to get curious and, using that intuitive knowing to pave this path 3 decades ago, right? We're just starting to talk about it now. So I can't even imagine how foreign it felt 3 decades ago.
Oh, it was pretty foreign. The resistance. For one thing, most of the testing is out of pocket. It's not
Mhm.
covered by insurance. And some of the labs we've been using for these 2.5 decades are still considered experimental because there's no medical diagnosis that comes out of them. And that's how the modern system works. The Western medicine is based on diagnosis
Hmm.
and treatment. And what I found out is, and this took years, but is that we could outperform diagnosis and treatment by almost ignoring the diagnosis. Like, I don't really care what your doctor calls this. There's reasons why, as you just suggested, and it requires time, as you also mentioned, and that's when I learned. I had a lady come in with hot flashes and night sweats. I said, well, our way we work here is we run labs and we find out what the underlying causal factors are. And she said, I just want to get rid of the hot flashes and night sweats. Like she didn't even care why, the stress that changed your hormones. And I could run you through all the lab work and the way that the downward spiral works. Um, but so relief care is also important. So
Hmm.
yeah, we need time. Matter of fact, the observations that I make require time to capitalize on the data. Oh, here's what's wrong upstream, whether it's hormone imbalance, immune system overactive or underactive, or you're not breaking down and absorbing your nutrients, your liver's congested. You have all these functional what we call healing opportunities is what I'm looking for. Um, and they take time to capitalize on. You have to change the inputs, change their diet, change their sleep patterns, change their exercise routine, reduce stress in every way it can be identified, and supplementation. But that does take time.
Hmm.
And so I've started to use that idea of the protracted um, healing, cycle, the way the body works, um, to define when it's best to use us. So if you have hot flashes and night sweats, and that's all you care about, there's plenty of stuff you can take. Matter of fact, I learned real quick a lot of good relief strategy that's very natural, drug-free kind of things. But sometimes that's where a physician can write a prescription. It's very handy. Get a person out of pain. Hey, nothing wrong with that. Um, stop some inflammation that's causing real serious problems, migraines and asthma and all these. It's okay to get relief care. I tell people it should be as natural as possible, but it's not always possible. So that's when the downward spiral is very contracted. And if it's so contracted that the observations I make can't be capitalized on, well, that's what doctors are for. If you have, let's just say, Ebola virus, you're not going to call your nutritionist.
Mm.
If you get victim of a drive-by shooting, you're not going to call your personal trainer, or even an FDN practitioner, we call ourselves. You got to go get urgent care. Western medicine's the best at that. So we just play in different sandboxes is all, and um, people find that uh, if there's time, run some labs, you can live yourself. You follow the habits, but you live yourself out of the problems you lived yourself into. You lived
Mm.
yourself into this, madam. And if we can get the data that we need, what's going on upstream, we can capitalize on that. You follow the right direct, we call it DRESS,
Mhm.
diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction, and supplementation. And it has an effect, a positive effect on every cell, tissue, organ, system. The whole organism benefits. And then whatever the diagnosis was, that sort of urgent, nasty thing, can just disappear permanently in some cases if you know what the steps to take are. So nothing against doctors. It's just that's not what we do.
I love that because it felt like okay, it's not one type of, healing modality taking over the other. There's a time and place for Western medicine, exactly as you said,
Yeah.
certain like trauma accidents or whatever it may be, and then there's a time and place for FDN and different healing modalities that kind of look beyond the surface, that, kind of peeling the layers of the onion. How did we end up here? How can we backtrack? And then you mentioned the DRESS protocol. You've trained over 4,000 practitioners worldwide. How, what has their response to this training been and with this protocol been?
Yeah, the individual results vary. I can provide the training, um, and people can decide, and sometimes they've predetermined, hey, this is what I want to do. I want to help people. And most of them have a college degree or some college. Most of them have a certificate or two in something, whether it's nutrition or fitness or massage or health coaching or something. And some are even licensed. We have a lot of nurses, and we have like pharmacists and just people from all walks of allied health practitioner. Um, and they want to know how it really works. They don't want to just be patching things up, selling supplements, or what they're doing isn't enough, and they're not making enough money, and so they're searching for something that goes a little deeper. Matter of fact, in the marketplace, which I have as a business owner, I have to look at. The health coaching business is going to go to like 22 billion by 2030, just 5 more years from now. That's a lot being spent on health coaching. A lot of it is in the mental and emotional and wellness
Mhm.
field. A lot of it's in the nutrition and diet field, but 40% of it is in just the holistic health coaching field. And so the way that works is there's an awful lot of um, basic diet and exercise and coaching up on lifestyle stuff, but there's not enough. And this is where the opportunity is for my company and any others that wanted to do it, is in the lab training. So we're very focused on getting the data. People want data.
Hmm.
And this is what I learned. The first lab I ever ran helped somebody because I got the data that no one else was looking for, by the way, that told us what the problem is, what the healing opportunity is. And so I think I'm answering your question by saying that people who want to help others need to learn more than they know now. And I spent 10 years in the office running thousands of labs on thousands of people. I can save you that 10 years. Like, don't go spend 10 years, trying this and trying that. Um, I think I've done it for you in that sense. And so the answer to your question, what do my graduates do? If they either go get a job in a clinic where they're needed, like we need someone that can help these people read the labs, run the labs, read the labs, get them following a really good lifestyle program, a lot of coaching involved in that, hold classes and do fun stuff. I think it's all fun while they do doctoring, that sort of urgent, uh, more specific, more serious kind of conditions. The doctors like doing that. They like having FDNs around. There are doctors now, they will only hire an FDN graduate. They don't want, like, even nurses sort of aren't trained in really interpreting the labs at the level we do and knowing what's wrong with people. So we have a lot of nurses and again, allied practitioners of all sorts. So they either do that or they start their own businesses, which is another set of challenges. Like, how do I run my own business? but the but the beauty is that if you become a FDN practitioner, you're already set up to you can go get a job, like I say, but you're set up to be an independent health entrepreneur.
Mm.
Set your own hours, set your own prices, work from anywhere in the world that has a computer and an internet connection. I've traveled a lot. Um, I can put a screen behind me. No one knows where I am. Right now, I'm in Florida because my background says nothing but Florida.
It's screaming Florida.
But yeah, but no, I could be in California or Mexico or wherever, and you do the same work. And so anyway, there's a lot of freedom in being a independent health entrepreneur. There's a lot of freedom in it. And you besides your time freedom and your own health, you're gonna work on your own health all the time. It's a major priority. Health freedom and time freedom and geographical freedom, as we spoke of. The emotional freedom is beyond anything else because you're actually helping people. You wake up every day with a purpose in life. So there's a lot of freedom in that too. But the financial freedom can also come when you can really get results for people
Hmm.
consistently, reliably. You start to build your practice on really referrals. You kind of work hard in the beginning to get some customers. No lie about that. And I have every kind of sort of method dialed in if you're willing to work hard. But once you do, you should really, the holy grail is a referral based waiting list practice, if you want to put it that way, referral based practice. So you're just living your life. You're living the dream, as we say here in America. And, so that's what FDN practitioners are supposed to be out there doing.
I love that. And thank you for sharing the business aspect of it. I'm curious about, let's get specific. I'm curious about the health philosophy, and you have, so many decades of insights. I would love to know because you talk about the metabolic chaos. Can you explain what it is? And I mean, you briefly touched upon that it's not like the single root cause is a myth. Like there's so many different components at play, but let's dive into it.
Yeah, thank you for that. Um, when I was running all those labs in the office, 10 years, thousands of labs, thousands of people, I was always looking for the root cause. So you've heard root cause, root cause, root cause. In very few cases will you find one.
Mhm.
It's always multiple causal factors. Some are very far removed from the actual where they're suffering, where the symptoms are appearing. And so I learned to look always for multiple causal factors. And there's a pattern I recognize. We call it the hidden. I think you know this. HIDDEN spells hidden. Much of it's hidden. Much of it's not even being looked for by standard medicine. They're working very close to the symptoms. We're working way upstream in the hormone, immune, digestion, detoxification, energy production, and nervous system balance. That spells hidden, HIDDEN. And so I learned all those labs and investigations and pathways. And, you know, some are so far removed, so far upstream. And oh, by the way, they don't even have to exist anymore. The downward spirals in metabolism paused uh, will continue. They get kind of burned in, even if the original stressor is gone. So you can't even find some root causes. It's good to look, but don't tell me I search for the root cause and find the root cause. No, what you find are causal factors.
Mhm.
And here's the interesting thing that no one talks about. Those causal factors have an effect on each other. Again, as things are kind of going downstream, all the organs, systems, cells, you name it, um, are affected and start affecting each other in ways that can't even be singly measured. There's not enough labs to so you have this idea, and it just came out of my mouth. It's metabolic chaos. Wow, that sounds great. That's what it is. That's our one diagnosis. It's not a medical diagnosis. It's a concern. It's a consideration. It's actually a construct, if you want. That well, there's there are multiple causal factors, all of them having an effect and having an effect on each other, creating metabolic chaos. And so that's if you just start there and go, hey, that's very emancipating.
Mhm.
I don't have to worry about diagnosing and treating specific things. Now, we know the diagnosis. We know about irritable bowel and Crohn's, and you name something, chronic fatigue and fibromyalgia, and foggy thinking, all the things that people have, migraines, and just you name. I mentioned the skin conditions and asthma and lots of things. So yes, there are diagnoses, but really, it's our. You mentioned philosophy. You want to know what so philosophy is that it's metabolic chaos, and that just like there's multiple causal factors, you need an emancipating, a clarifying, and unifying understanding, and that is that it's metabolic chaos, and there are steps to resolving that. And the three steps are run the labs, multiple labs, identify the multiple healing opportunities, and then apply the healing principles of the DRESS program, diet, rest, all the inputs. And so that's a very unifying and simplifying approach that is very emancipating to the practitioner. I think all of them, but you know, to the patient or client, it's um, it's a relief. It's
Mhm.
oh, thank goodness. You ran multiple lab. You found out it's all this stuff. Hey, I'm not crazy. Hear that all the time. Oh my God, thank you. Because everyone else told me I was crazy. And we'll say, no, you've lived yourself into having all this stuff. Let's now this is where the coaching comes in. So step one is the assessments, the hidden. We run 5 labs on every person. Sorry, that's the price of admission. Um, because we're not looking for one thing. We're not going to guess which test to run because that's what's wrong with the current system. It sounds like thyroid. It sounds like irritable bowel. Oh, it sounds like a parasite. So what does a person do? a practitioner, well, let's run a parasite. Let's run a thyroid test. God forbid they find low thyroid output because they'll go, I found your problem. It's low thyroid. Here's the agent to change the numbers on the paper. Not change the person, not really fix anything, not
Mhm.
but just change the numbers on the paper and hopefully get some symptom relief from that. So so the idea of metabolic case is look, there's a lot going on here. There's multiple causal factors. We can deal with all of the inputs, all the original stressors that created these downward spirals through lifestyle medicine. It's the diet right for that person. No one diet right for everybody.
Mhm.
There's no one diet that's right for everybody. There's stuff that's bad for everybody, but we won't go there. So then the rest and sleep and everybody's on these different circadian rhythms and cycles and things. So you need to run the labs and help a person. The diet, the rest, the exercise. I'm 72. I can't work out like I did at 40. I had to quit jujitsu because I kept getting hurt. I did it for years. I was the strongest guy in the gym, but things change. Diet, rest, exercise, stress reduction is the biggest area, perhaps,
Mhm.
because of you know, the different types of stress. Is it mental, emotional,
Mhm.
psychospiritual? Is it trauma, accident, old aches and pains? Is it chemical stress, which, there are tens of thousands of chemicals in our environment? That's where I started, environmental law and conservation. And boy, all that stuff is still going on. We've cleaned up the planet some, actually done a remarkable job in some areas, but there's still all these different types of stress. There's a lot to sort out there. And then supplements, they can be very helpful, substituting for what's missing from food, because food just doesn't have all the
Mhm.
vitamins and minerals and essential fatty acids and antioxidants and phytonutrients and trace elements and things that it's supposed to have. Food doesn't have that anymore, but you require it. So you have to supplement. And then there's also supplements that are good for supporting weak areas, whether it's the adrenals or digestion or the immune system. And there's some other uses for them too. But so this idea of having an effect on every cell, tissue, organ, and system is the only way to resolve metabolic chaos once you've sorted out again through the lab work. So step one is run the lab. Step two is design the dress protocol for that
Mhm.
individual person. That they can't go tell their neighbor, try this, because it was made for them. Their neighbor
Yeah.
needs a different one. And so, matter of fact, neighbor might be harmed actually in some cases, um, or it will do nothing. So an individual, so run the labs, you design the dress protocol. Then guess what? Someone's got to follow the protocol, the person. And that's where the coaching comes in because people need to be held accountable. They need coaching. Sometimes you have to correct course.
Yeah.
It's not like power boating. It's like sailing. You tack, you come about, you zigzag a little bit with the currents and the winds and the changes that take place. And so it's a very, even though it's complex, it's got its complexities, metabolic chaos. Oh, it's you simplify and unify all the practitioners behind those thoughts that hey, this can be sorted out.
I love that because A, it gives you hope that there's a way out of this and you don't need to, manage these symptoms for the rest of your life. And two, it feels very customized care, right? So I'm suspecting that the client really feels seen, like actually feels seen and feels heard and understood, and which I think is missing in a lot of doctor visits. I know I feel overlooked so many times. It's like, I have 2 minutes to tell you what's happening, and you're just gonna like throw a band-aid on it. So to really have that space to feel seen, I think can be such a game changer for the
Yeah,
client journey.
uh, absolutely. There's you may when you said manage, manage symptoms. So there's still some of that sometimes because the process, once you run the labs and you design the protocol, you got to run the protocol. And
Hmm.
again, this is where the zigzagging might occur a little bit. But that process is also very simplified. That what is your objective here? It's to overcome obstacles to healing.
Hmm.
And so if a person has a bad habit, they keep doing this, or that's an obstacle to healing. They've got to get rid of that bad habit. So now it becomes where's that is that habit a physiological dependence, or is it a mental aberration of some sort? They think they have to have ice cream before bed. And I literally had a lady come into my office for report of findings, and she was just so nervous. She was actually sweating. Her husband was trying to calm her down. And I said, "Hey, I haven't even started yet. I haven't even given you your first lab report, and told you sort of what's wrong." Here she goes, "I just don't want to have to quit eating ice cream before bedtime. And I'll do anything you ask me, but please don't ask me to stop." So now what is it? Is that there's no, I don't know what, there's a lot of things going on with that, but habits are uh, something that can get in the way. And so, um, we have to deal with all of that as we coach up people and correct course as we go along. Um, So I want to say at least that much, that you sometimes there is maintenance, like
Hmm.
and even there's no reason you couldn't do FDN with an FDN practitioner and still see a doctor for something that the FDN can't do. There's stuff that's not in our backyard, not really. We can work around the edges of it. If you have cancer, if you have other advanced pathology, then you're going to need some maintenance. You got to keep someone who knows a lot about that disease. You probably want to have some oversight. Well, again, I call it working around the edges. And I
Hmm.
have seen some diagnoses completely disappear. I'll give you one quick example. I know we might be going over here a little bit, but um, I had a lady coming in the office. She was doing great. She's happy. And she asked me, kind of, I'm walking her out. Um, she says, "Do you work with children?" I go, "Well, yeah, I've raised four. I coach football. I love children. Why?" She goes, "Well, they're trying to send my son home from school if I won't put him on Ritalin." Now, that was the drug of choice for ADD 25 years ago and 20 years ago. And now it's might be something else. But I said to her, "Do you think your son has a Ritalin deficiency?" Which she didn't think was funny at all and really frowned at me and, said, "No, I don't want to put my son on drugs. Can you help him or not?" I said, "Really don't know. We could run some labs and see." But I had to ask her, I said, "Well, when the school said they're going to kick him out of school if you don't put him on Ritalin, was that a doctor or at least a nurse?" Nope. That was just the teacher and the principal were diagnosing ADD, ADHD, and prescribing medicine. They wanted behavior. They knew that other kids on that drug,
Hmm.
they got a different behavior from, not even considering what's going on really. So I said, "I don't know if I could help." We ran some labs. We got the results. All through the mom. I never even met the young man. By the way, he was 9. He's 9 years old, and the teacher and principal were recommending a class 2 narcotic. That's the same classification as cocaine. And so you're going to put a 9-year old on a class 2 narcotic. Um, let's see what else we could do first. So within 3 weeks of implementing a protocol, like this goes back to you asking about,
Hmm.
you know, how does it actually work in real life? There's changes, that happen. Within 3 weeks, I got a call from the principal. It says, Mr. Davis, I tracked you down through the mom, and I just want to tell you this is a different kid.
Wow.
This young man is paying attention. He's not poking the other kids. He's not jumping out of his chair, yelling inappropriately or any of that stuff anymore. And I'm like, I'm getting chills thinking about it. Like I was so proud, and I thought, man, he's going to send me every kid in the school. And then he goes, "What'd you put him on?" Which just totally blew me away. Like, no, it just doesn't work that way. What we put him on was a better diet. We took foods out of his diet. We put him on a better bedtime schedule. We put him on more exercise size because you guys don't exercise the kids enough. They're way under exercising our children. And, you know, pretty much reduce stress in his life and so on. And so, all through the mom, I never met the young man, all through the mom. And he was disappointed to hear that. He wanted to know you know, what's in the bottle, what kind of med. So, so I guess when I said habits and doing things that are right for you and um, eliminating the things that are bad for you is it's the only thing I know how to do. But I know how to do it really well. And just thank goodness, Tannaz. After 10 years of working in the office, and I was a hustler, let me tell you, I loved the work so much. I would go out and do lectures. I had a bone density testing machine. I went out into grocery stores doing it. And so everyone who got a bone density test, I'd kind of upsell them, hey, you gotta get your hormones checked too. And so I just ran more labs than anybody, but I didn't know it until a doctor from a lab, a clinic that had developed some labs that I used. He called me up and he goes, "Hey," he goes, "who the hell are you?" Just like that, exact word. I said, "I'm Reed." He goes, "No, I mean," he goes, like, "who are you that you get so many labs?" Reed, you're running more labs than our next five best customers combined. These were labs that alternative practitioners and chiropractors were starting to use. And he had a good business. He was running a lot of labs for a lot of people. But he said, "You're not just our best customer. It's like you're five times our best customer."
Mhm.
So I didn't know that what I was doing was any big deal. I just loved doing it and was out there. I'd test anybody, if they'd spend the money. That was my whole thing was you got to invest in some lab work. Then maybe I could help you. And that's how I developed the whole system. I started recognizing patterns, and so anyway, that was after 10 years. And he goes, "Whatever you're doing, you should be teaching." And he said, "Matter of fact, I got some practitioners that you can teach because I don't have time to teach them, and you're doing a better job anyway." So I put one little class together in 2008. There's only 19 people there, and I enjoyed it. And then guess what? They wouldn't go away. So now we have five. You said 4,000 in the introduction. It's over 5,000 people we've
Wow.
trained, and our alumni, the graduates of the program. It's a very robust course now. It's not the little thing I started 17 years ago. It's a very robust program. Again, all the labs, the anatomy, the physiology, the biochemistry, the labs, and understanding how not to treat the paper, but to clinically correlate with every single person. This is Mrs. Smith's lab. It's not Mr. Jones's lab, and that means something. Does this explain her why she's appearing? Her complaints and all that stuff. So now she knows she's not crazy.
Hmm.
You really do have some things going on here that we can fix with the dress protocol. And so that's what I teach now. I'm happy doing that. I don't see clients anymore, in case somebody was wondering. But I have over 1,000 very active graduates who are seeing people and are looking to help. people. We have a drop down list on our website and stuff like that.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that um, you took something that sparked something in you and that intuitive knowing, and you just pursued it, and the path just revealed itself one step at a time. And it is, and got you to this point, and how you allowed, I always like to say, like, we allow ourselves to become a medium for the universe's vision to manifest through us. So I think you did a really great job at that.
I feel you. I feel you on that. The what really put me over the top teaching, I didn't know how to teach. Really, I could teach the patients, but to teach the practitioners was a whole different ballgame. And what made me decide, yeah, okay, was when it wasn't that lab director, it was someone else said, just think of all the people that you can help, Reed, if you train
Mhm.
others. And so, yeah, it makes sense. Maybe I had a goal of helping 10,000 people. Well, now it's over, I can help 1 million people. So for every new FDN practitioner, I tell them, let's just work on getting your first 5 clients or, customers in a sense. Because that's 5 I don't have to see. That's 5 that I know are going to get the help that they need without having to see me personally. So multiply that times 5,000, and that's our goal. Just to get as many people as possible the help they need that they don't seem to be getting anywhere else.
Thank you for that. Thank you for today's episode, for sharing your wisdom, your insights. I know you have a special gift for the audience. If we can just talk about that a little bit and then share the website, although I'm going to put all of that in the show notes.
Yeah, we have a lot of free gifts, education. I think that if they go to that fdntraining.com/minutes, they'll end up with like our 5 and 5 program. We teach you 5 labs. It's a 5-day course. The full FDN course is 10 months. I teach you what in 10 months what took me 10 years to learn. But this is a little mini course. It's about the labs and what they mean and how you could run them or get them run on yourself.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That is, I'm going to, it's not even my field, but I'm now so curious. I'm going to go sign up and learn a little thing or two. It's always better to know a little bit more than you did the day before. So thank you for creating that platform for us to learn, for those who are interested in FDN, who are curious. I'm going to put that in the show notes. And once again, thank you so much for coming on, for sharing all of this, and for um, answering that calling.
Yeah. Well, I hope you keep doing what you're doing. I think it's phenomenal. Anyone in the education business, I stand behind them and beside them. And if I can ever help you in any way, let me know.
Thank you. Thank you, Reed, and thank you everyone for listening. Speak soon.